Okay, everyone, guess what? We're back here at Ionan's Edge. Today's review will be on the Topps Bold Trout Fixed Blade. I want to thank Grumpy Grunt for sending this knife along to me. This is his own personal knife for me to check out and use. Really appreciate you, brother. So let's jump right in with some basic specs. You got a 154 cm blade steel, kind of thick bellied drop point. This is a full flat grind all the way to the top. Burlap micarta scales, stainless steel anodized hardware. You got a lanyard loop back here. That actually, to me, looks like it might be aluminum, but it could be spun stainless. And you got a full chocolate leather sheath. All right, so as far as the usable specs on the knife, there is a 2.5 inches of full usable fine edge. The scale length is 3 3/8, and the tip to tail length on this knife is just a tick over 6 1/8 inches. The weight of the knife is 3.05 ounces for the knife, and if you take it with the sheath, it is 4.5 ounces when it's being carried in the sheath. So let's talk about what I like. First of all, the biggest thing about this knife is the ergos. It has a massive finger choil here, folks. This thing is huge. The finger choil on this knife is huge. You got great steel, good build quality, good cutting performance from a small blade, but the ergos are what really truly make this knife what it is. When I first took this out and looked at it, I was kind of like, okay, I just looked at it. And then when I finally got a chance to put this knife in my hand and hold it, I realized how ergo-friendly this knife really is. I don't care how big a gorilla fingers you got, they're gonna fit in this. And the way that the blade, the scales and the shape of the scales are sculpted, and the fact that they're really pretty thick. You can see the blade stock on this knife is very thick. I didn't measure it, but suffice it to say, it's thick. It's very similar to what Giant Mouse does with the really, really thick stock on for the spine and the blade. But the biggest thing is when you hold this knife, it feels bigger than it actually is. When you put it on your hands, it's substantial here from side to side, and also in the general contouring. But when you squeeze the knife, what you notice is that you really feel your finger engagement here and across the back of the knife. So that is excellent. The jimping is here. Even if you have your hand a little forward, you can still kind of get your fingers on it. But this knife feels substantial in your hand. It doesn't look like it's a substantial knife. I know that, but it feels substantial. And I think that really lends itself to the good cutting that this knife does. I ripped up a bunch of stuff with this knife. I sliced through a ton of boxes I had out there in the garage, did a little bit of whittling. It's a surprisingly good performing knife considering what it is. But no matter who you are, you're going to find that this knife it has just the right engagement because it's so narrow here, and your thumb and your index finger are so close together. The knife really does feel very positive in your hand. Yeah, you can choke up, and yes, it'll feel really, really comfortable. So love all of that stuff. The knife probably would, it has a lanyard loop, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute, but it probably would benefit from that. Again, scales are well done, hardware's well done. The ergos on the knife are phenomenal. The leather sheath for this knife is nice. Chocolate brown leather, well done, high quality, looks and feels nice, double stitched. Can't say anything bad about that. They do give you a nice sheath with the knife. One of the other things I love, and I think Grumpy and I are on the same page with this, I love a bead blasted or stone washed, ceramic washed finish on work knives. This one has a bead blasted finish over the 154 cm. It looks great. It'll wear a long time. It won't show a lot of wear marks. This knife, you don't need to do anything to it. It's a 154 cm stainless in a bead blasted finish. So very low maintenance. There's really not a lot to do here other than just keep the edge sharp. How did it perform? Great. The knife actually, like I said, handled all the cutting tasks that I typically throw at my test knives. And it's not a very big knife, but it cuts bigger than it looks. That's the best explanation that I can give. Like I said, I do like the fact that it's got a thick spine and it's got some meaningful jimping up here. Yeah, again, all good. So were there any dislikes about this knife? There's a couple small things. First of all, the sheath doesn't offer any carry but drop. I wonder sometimes why manufacturers don't have this clip come down a little further and then sew in, this flap on the leather come down a little longer and then just, tack it in two places. And then you'd have, You'd have a different carry option. You could, make it widen out and tack it down and then you'd be able to scout carry the knife. So you can only drop carry. And I feel like that's a detraction for me because very rarely do I carry a knife in drop position. It is small enough you probably could stick it in a cargo pocket. I'm not really fond of carrying knives in cargo pockets. It's a little bulky and thick to go in a front pocket, but I suppose you could carry it that way if you wore loose enough pants. So again, I didn't see any option on top sight for a Kydex holster. They're Kydex sheath, sorry. They're not that hard to make, but that would be a thing for me. I would want to carry this knife because it is EDCable. I'd want to create some kind of small, either Kydex pocket slip sheath for it, or some kind of sheath so that the knife could be carried in the scout position, which is the way I prefer. But size-wise, again, it's a great EDC knife. And then the jimping on the knife is well placed, but it is a little aggressive. It's because the recessions here are so deep. But again, I understand it's supposed to be kind of a quick utility knife for fishing and camping and, things like that. And so I get that they did this because your hands aren't gonna slip off of it. And the only other small thing is I would have liked that they maybe jimped this one or two more spots forward, just because it would have given you that jimping up here in what I feel like is where my hand always wants to go, catches on the back of there. It would have been nice to have a couple more, one or two more of these little jimp spot cutouts here. But again, it's got such a thick spine that it's not really that big of an issue, but it's just something I notice when I'm giving my thoughts on a knife. It's like, would have liked to have seen this extend out a tiny bit more right here. That's really it. I do not have very many issues with this knife at all. As a matter of fact, this knife impressed me the least out of the fixed blades that I did get on loan from Grumpy in terms of the way it looked out of the box. But as soon as I handled it and started using it, I realized why this is one of his favorites and why he loaned me this knife to review. I am a big fan of this little teeny knife. So let's do a couple quick size comparisons for you guys, just so you can kind of see what it looks like. So I'll start with a knife that I'm going to give all folders though. So here's, just so you can get a size comparison. So here is a Benchmade mini Griptilian. This is one of a couple of Griptilians I own. This is the combo version, but gives you an idea. So the mini grip is not a very big knife. There it is next to a mini Griptilian. Here it is next to a larger knife, but not a knife anybody would consider large. That is the TRM Neutron 2. So you can see, but then again, there's so much difference in thickness that the Neutron 2 does feel like a small, thin knife, and the Bull Trout feels substantial. And then I'll put it up next to a knife that a lot of people, including myself, are very fond of, which is the EMP EDC Nimble. So you can see the Nimble is longer, but again, much thinner. Yeah, you get a little bit more blade here, but again, this is supposed to be a small EDC fixie. All right, well, there you go. This is the Tops USA 154 cm steel Bull Trout. Impressive little knife. One of the things I didn't mention earlier, but I meant to mention is I think this is a knife that would benefit from having a lanyard on it. I think if you had a nice paracorded lanyard back here that had a little bit of length, say maybe 2 inches, that you could have come out and fold over. I think for those people with bigger hands, you could fold that over right here in the back and you would get some extra purchase with bigger hands right here at the back edge of the knife. So this is a knife, if I were to buy this even, I might consider putting a lanyard on this, because I think a short 1.5 or 2 inch lanyard, because I think that would be helpful on this knife. But even the way it sets, this is a great knife, has great ergos, will fit a lot of different hand sizes. And not only is it a good outdoor camping, cutting bait, line, etc. type of knife, but this would make a great EDC carry knife in this size range. Again, my only issue is if you wanted to conceal it, you would probably need a Kydex holster that you could slip in your pocket or wear in the scout position. But there it is, folks. That is the Topps USA Bull Trout. Check it out if you get the chance. Thanks as always for watching. Consider hitting the like button and subscribing to my channel for future content. And stay sharp, everyone.